All right. Another question for you. Which injuries can you typically run through and which ones can you not run through pain-wise?
Yeah, so bone stress injuries cannot run through. Rich Willie, Brent Edwards, Stu Warden did a nice paper on this, JOSPT 2021, and they showed basically the pain monitoring scale, which Karin Silbernagel is associated with. It was originally done by Tomei in the late 90s, looking at, I believe, adolescents with patellofemoral pain. But if you look at that pain monitoring scale, it's like basically 0 to 4 or 5 is, you're okay to keep running so long as you don't have altered mechanics. With bone stress injuries, it's like 0 to 0.5 out of 10. So like you do not want to be running in the context of a bone stress injury just because you're going to prolong your recovery, or you could develop a life-altering injury if you're dealing with a high-risk bone stress injury, such as a femoral neck, the anterior tibial cortex, the navicular. So with tendons, I am cavalier as hell, man. I want to know how that tendon responds. With the Achilles, there's no place to hide just because 50% of the energy for distance running comes from below the knee or the plantar flexors. So with patellofemoral pain, I'm cool with people working through that. ITB to an extent. Look, I ran through a patellar tendinopathy for 16 months. And, so I think it's just looking how someone responds to get them to treat that as a yellow light time where you're trying to maintain consistency of training. You're not trying to push the needle from a performance standpoint. So yeah, it's really like soft tissue versus bony injuries. And I think if someone has a soleus strain or a gastroc tear, like you're going to have a hell of a time trying to run through those, especially early on. And the recurrence rate, you also have to keep in mind, is pretty darn high. Like I work with a lot of people, I've tweaked my calf like 6 to 7 times in the past year. I'm like, oh, probably got back too soon, or you're incompletely rehabbed.
I've done that.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
you're just like, here we go, back. Like you feel like you're back at square one.
Yeah, it's like, will this thing ever heal? Is this just the rest of my life? Am I just going to strain this every time I try to? Yeah, that is a good point. I think that those strain injuries in particular, it's they kind of catch you all at once. Whereas, let's say a tendinopathy, you have some idea of when it may come on, and if it does come on, probably going to stay about the same. In some cases, it gets more severe. But for some of those strain injuries, it's kind of like I feel nothing, and all of a sudden, I feel like I just tore something when those recurrences come, and it's not predictable. So those are tough. Those are tricky.
And the soleus, especially because, in contrast to like a gastroc tear that you would see in a jumping athlete, soleus strains may not have that acute onset. And that's why it requires a little bit more of an astute clinician. Not claiming that I'm an astute clinician, but you can miss these if you're saying like, hey, was there an acute episode? And they're like, no, but like, I felt a little bit of tightening, at the end of the run. I went out to run the next day. It just wasn't happening. So I think if things warm up, that's a good sign too. And that's one of like the tendon tendencies that I teach. It's like, TWU, tendons warm up. TTT, awesome. Tendons take time. TLT, tendons need load over time.
So here's what I want you to do next, guys. If you enjoyed this video so far, I have an entire course. It's free. It's called the Fitness Pain-Free Mini Course. And we go over 3 lessons. Going to help you take a lot of this information that we went over so far and put it into practice. The first lecture is called Why We Need a Better System. So first and foremost, the way we treat fitness individuals, all right, athletic people in the gym from a physical therapy perspective is pretty much broke, okay? So we need a better system to serve the folks that are in the gym that get hurt, they want to get back to training, all right? Lecture number 2 is called 7 Reasons Why People Get Hurt in the Gym. And essentially, we have to know the reasons why people get hurt in the gym so we can keep them safe in the future, right? And when they get hurt, we have to know why and how to get them back to training in the gym. Okay, so a thorough understanding of this is very, very important. I actually have a really cool infographic that goes along with this lecture that you get for free as well. And lastly, we go over a case study of how to get someone out of pain and back to training. So these principles are all phenomenal, but we don't actually put it together and you don't understand how to create a program to get people back in the gym and keep them safe for the long term, then we lose, right? So I'll put a link in the show notes for this. It's a Fitness Pain-Free Mini Course. Definitely check this out.